I've eaten a lot of raccoon. Yes. The answer is yes. And I've eaten it hunting. I've actually had it served by my mom at the table away from hunting. And I have eaten raccoon. And yes, it's not uncommon at all. I'll tell you something that is one of my favorites, the squirrel. And it's wonderful, and my mother could do a great job of it. And we all had our favorite pieces, and my dad and sister, I have one sibling, a sister, and they would fight over, not fight, but my mom and I, they were just, my sister and I as for a sibling, my mom and I wouldn't even ask for the brain in a squirrel.
Oh, man.
And delicious, seriously.
My dad loves cow brain.
My sister always got it, or my dad.
The fight over the brain. Jerry?
Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, with Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as the new crowd favorite, the Funky Chicken. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope everybody's having a...
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
There you go, trolls. Eagle fans, Commander fans, congratulations. Thank you, Jerry Jones, for making us feel like some shit. And we are at a crossroads right now because, see, in life, you can continue, when you have problems, you can continue down the same path doing the exact same thing, or you make changes. Right now, currently, my blood pressure is getting up there a little bit, and that may be because of the Cowboys. It was way high this morning. My weight, it's up there. Stress eating, as Eagle fans will like to say. Doing something about that. Trying to cut back what I'm eating things that are less bad for you. Trying to do something different to get a different result. Here's where, going through the game yesterday as we're watching our former defensive coordinator, who was here, who the players loved, who took the worst defense in the history of the Dallas Cowboys and turned them around in 1 year. With smoke and mirrors, without the Cowboys going out and investing on their team and on the roster, other than the draft. Now, granted, they hit gold when they got Micah Parsons, which definitely makes the defense better by himself. But for the most part, it was guys like Al Harris that was getting the most out of the cornerbacks that we had. It was Dan Quinn putting guys in positions to be successful to a point without having the interior defensive line that he really needed and the linebackers that he needed. Because you can see when you have a Bobby Wagner, a guy who wanted to play here, it makes a difference. And so yesterday, watching the game, David Hausman, shout out to David Hausman, tweeted out this. As we sit here on the precipice of trying to figure out who's our coach going to be, or coaches, all of them, figuring out that right now it is the 13th of January, and free agency starts in 2 months. You need to figure out what coaches are going to be here, what system they're going to run, and what players that you want to keep and or bring in. David Hausman tweeted this out yesterday. Dorrance Armstrong is an example of a guy who outplays your finances. You wish him well and get a comp pick for losing him. He does. So Dorrance Armstrong did get $10 million. I get that. And he's not playing as well as he did for us last year. Then, as the tweet continues to go on, Dante Fowler is an example of a guy that a serious team should be trying to keep to maintain the depth of his pass rush. Double-digit sacks for $3.2 million. And see, I say this because we have possibly another one of those guys in Goldston. It may be that Osa and Digizua is like Dorrance Armstrong, and they say, we're not going to pay $12, $14 million to keep Osa and Digizua. We'll just draft a guy to go in there. And herein lies the problem. We let go 9 starters last year and did absolutely nothing to replace them. We didn't. The Dallas Cowboys off-seasons are all the same. If you take off your I hate Dak Prescott glasses and look holistically at the team and look and see and ask yourself, over the last 5 years, what have the Dallas Cowboys done to say we are actually trying to win a Super Bowl? What moves have they made to take the team that they had and truly improve it? What big move have they made? What big trade have they made to bring a playmaker in or plug a major hole? When we lose linebackers, we try and trade for or try to sign a guy who's been injured. When we literally go to training camp and we know we have a lack of linebackers, that you had Leighton Vander Esch and guys that haven't gotten on the field, and you say, we need another linebacker, you bring in Anthony Barr in the middle of training camp, coming off a knee injury. That'll do. When you lose Leighton Vander Esch, you take a safety who's 206 pounds and say, well, he can play linebacker. I want to go back for a minute here, because I'm hoping that we don't repeat the same shit. But this is a reminder from some years ago. And I'm going to ask you, what's changed?
Reads, Mac. It's official. This is the worst Dallas Cowboys offseason of the century, Mac.
Name me one. Yeah, I was thinking about this yesterday, Kevin, and I can't think of a headline. I can't think of. We're almost at 4 months in, right? We're almost at April, and I went back to January 1. Think about how negative it's all been.
Yeah.
And I, God bless the Cowboys. I know you guys are the flagship. They let you guys say whatever you want to say. For my 3 years there's only one time, Sean, that they said, yeah, don't ask that question. Everything else, it's been fair game.
Yeah.
Not everybody does that. We saw with the Washington Commanders.
Yes.
Their flagship station saying, oh, thank God we can talk about the Commanders now. no longer affiliated with them.
Right.
So, but I looked at really, when I looked at just like a day-by-day timeline, they beat the Eagles on January 8th. They lost 2 out of their 3 games, right? They blamed the officials for basically 2 of the 3 losses, which is terrible. Dak Prescott sits there and endorses fans throwing junk at officials after the San Francisco game. He has to come out and apologize. You've got a PR director who retires. No big deal. 2 weeks later, there's this horrible story about him being accused of voyeurism, which he denied.
Yep.
But the Cowboys have to throw a $2.5 million check at 4 cheerleaders. Dak Prescott has another surgery. The Cowboys trade a wide receiver that they used the number 1 pick on back in 2018 in exchange for a 5th because the coaching staff doesn't like him, right? Then they give all this money to a guy who tore his ACL on January 2nd. Michael Gallup's not going to be ready for camp, right? Tank Lawrence is their best pass rusher. He comes back, that's a highlight. Jerry Jones gets named in a, Springer-like lawsuit. Randy Gregory, whom the Cowboys stuck by despite the fact that he had done nothing for them for years, gives them the middle finger, right, on a flip. Then they've got to cut Lyle Collins because the coaching staff didn't like him. But they kept their punter.
There you go.
Mac, why is Stephen Jones the Alan Greenspan of the NFL?
That's a great one-liner, by the way.
Thank you very much. Because it's so, we see all these teams talk about, we're in cap hell, and then they go out and they trade for Tyreek Hill, or they make these giant moves and add this big contract. I know the salary cap is a real thing, and I've talked to Stephen Jones, whom I like a lot, and he has come to admit and embrace the idea if you're going into free agency, that means you're overspending on that player because you made a big mistake 2 or 3 years ago. Okay, that's fine. That's sound philosophy.
Yeah.
And are you getting any better? The Dallas Cowboys today on March 25th, are they any better today, Sean?
No
than
way.
They were on. Okay.
And no one, not even the biggest Homer fan. I mean, not even Mickey Spagnuolo would make that kid. Mickey might. Mickey might, but
he'd try.
Yeah, he would try. But I don't think anyone would say that. They all say it's early. It's early.
Oh, I know. And are they going to? There's nobody left that they're going to get off the street that's going to make him any better. The only thing that's going to make him any better, they think Dak Prescott is as good as Aaron Rodgers, that they can put pretty good players around him and he'll make them great, and they'll win 10 or 11, 12 games. Mm. And the NFC East still is garbage.
Yes. And the NFC.
Not true anymore.
Yeah. It absolutely baffles me just how bad this division remains. And if you're like, well, where's our...
And Mac, the greatest stat right now in sports, the most embarrassing, 17 straight years without a back-to-back division winner in that division.
There you go.
That
was it. There you go. And so do you think the Cowboys are going to break that streak? Yeah, they might. No, seriously, who's better than them, right? Who could unseat them?
Right.
The Eagles?
The Giants are the one team to me, Mac, that does give me pause. Not necessarily
the Giants are the fourth.
Well, hold on now. They got Nick Martindale's a new defensive coordinator. Defensively, they've always been, decent. The major question is at quarterback with Daniel Jones. Can Brian Dable do something with Daniel Jones?
Okay, we'll end that right there because it ended up being everybody was always scared of the Giants, but the Giants sucked, and they're the worst. But now you look at the NFC right now. NFC's got some powerhouses. We've got some really good teams, and we are falling behind. I play that because that was from 2021, the offseason. He went down the litany of it, and we can go through, and they keep making the same thing every year. While I was listening to that, I looked up real quick. I was trying to get all of the free agent or notable free agent signings that the Cowboys have done. And this is the list from Reddick that came up from 2016 to 2021. Understanding that the Dallas Cowboys are the lowest spending team in free agent since 2016. Everybody has spent more than they have. Notable free agent signings, 2016. Alfred Morris, Benson Moua, Nolan Carroll, Stephen Pia, Kona Ely, and Cedric Thornton. In 2017, George Iloka, Randall Cobb. Now, Randall Cobb actually played well, but when you signed him, everybody thought he was done. The last good season he had was actually with Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. Kerry Hyder, another interior defensive lineman. Trayvon Austin, Jamez Alawalu, and Jonathan Cooper. 2020, I'm sorry, 2019. No, it's 2020. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the list total between there. But I remember this was the big year that we went in. Emerson Griffin. Gerald McCoy, who never played a game for us because he tore his leg up. Andy Dalton. Remember? Kind of. Does that feel like deja vu? We signed Andy Dalton. We trade for Trey Lance. Guys that there's no difference between Dak Prescott and those guys. Darryl Worley. Alden Smith, who was good for the first couple of games. Don Terry Poe, whose fat ass was just trying to get a check on his way out. And Clinton Ha-Ha Dix, who was cut before the end of training camp. Jaron Kearse, DeMonte Kazee, Malik Hooker, Brent Urban, Carlos Watkins, Keanu Neal, and Terrell Basham. For 5 seasons, that's what you did. That's what you did. And we're going through another season where we have holes to begin with, and we have quite a few free agents. Eric Kendricks, Jordan Lewis, Osa Ndigazua, Linville Joseph, Carl Lawson, Chauncey Goldston, Carlos Watkins, Nick Vagel, Cooper Rush, Chirma Igoda, Rico Dowdle, Brock Hoffman, Brian Aguilar, Marquez Bell, Trent Sigg, Kayvon Turpin, Israel Mahanahu, Trey Lance, Wanye Thomas, Tarvarius Wheat, and C.J. Godwin. So there you have that. So now, what will the Dallas Cowboys do? We can't seem to even get out the starting gate. Right now, we got Mike Vrabel's hired and putting together his staff with New England. Some people believe that the Bears have settled on, and it'll be announced today, Pete Carroll. These other teams are already making their offseason plans. Our season was a disappointment. How can we try and fix this? What can we do to get better? And we have the Joneses sitting on their ass trying to decide if they want to bring back one of the lowest paid coaches in the NFL. That's where we are, people. That's where we are. Dallas Cowboys. Tomorrow, Mike McCarthy can talk to anybody he wants to. I don't think that the Bears situation is obtainable, but there may be some teams that look at him and say, maybe it might not be the worst thing in the world. Maybe the Jets to say, Aaron Rodgers, here, we're not asking you to leave, but we're going to make it you feel uncomfortable, so we'll hire Mike McCarthy because we know you won't want to be here. I don't know. But it's funny, though, a difference a year makes, because C.J. Stroud last year, who was doing his tour with Micah Parsons and saying that he was a top 5 quarterback, terrible weekend. Not the same season as he had the year before. And Jordan Love yesterday, and I'm not sure I blame completely Jordan Love. I look at it and say you lost 3 starting wide receivers, so that makes it bad. But he's getting flack today. So let's listen to a little of that while we get out of here. And hope that the Cowboys wake up. They wake up and realize Dan Quinn and 4 of your players and 3 of your other coaches are in Washington doing big things. That your former offensive coordinator is on another team that's doing big things. You are sitting around on your ass with we're the most valuable franchise in the world. We're sick of it.
when he's not 100% right mentally. That's a great thing.
No doubt.
Could not agree more.
Period. Next sentence. He had one catch, and then he went there. Anyway, but it's just an amazing scene. I actually give him credit. It's an amazing scene on the sidelines to see a player reading a book. But, Smalls, your Green Bay Packers, very simply, did not have the season that anyone anticipated them to have. Your opening statement, so to speak, on your squad.
Yeah, it was certainly a frustrating season. Based on what they were able to do last postseason, they had a lot of momentum heading into this year, and this is a young team. So you thought they're in a really good position because they have that scar tissue from last postseason, but they're still so young and they're malleable and they're growing together. And quite simply, this season for the Green Bay Packers wasn't good enough. Now, they had to deal with a lot of injuries, which a lot of teams do, by the way, especially once we get to this time of year. I'm not making excuses, but when you lose big-time pieces like Jordan Love for a chunk of the season, even though they won with Malik Willis stepping up, but Christian Watson, Jair Alexander, they have been banged up, and obviously yesterday in the game, they sustained more injuries as well. But quite simply, one of the themes for the Green Bay Packers the entire year is that they could not stand up to and beat elite talent. They were winless against the Lions in the season series versus them, winless against the Vikings, and now they've played the Eagles twice, winless against them as well. And I think that for Packers fans, it's frustrating because you look at a lot of those wins, and it's so many self-inflicted mistakes that got in the way of this Green Bay Packers team. I was saying heading into this game, okay, the way for them to win is to run heavy with Josh Jacobs and let the defense do what they've done all season, make the Eagles have those big explosive plays and try to beat you through the air. Well, the defense did their part. Josh Jacobs tried to do his part. But when you fumble on the opening kickoff,
that was the death knell
you
right
have
there.
so many mistakes, overthrows, interceptions, dropped balls. Against a team like that, with that much talent that's rested, you have no chance. So before they could even beat the Philadelphia Eagles, they had to beat themselves, and it was just too much for the Green Bay Packers to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Love was not great, and that's putting it kindly. I mean, the inaccuracies, the turnovers, those things can't happen. In a game like that against a supremely talented defense, he's going to have to be a force multiplier, especially missing Christian Watson. Romeo Doubs got banged up in that game. Jaden Reed got banged up in that game.
It's hard playing quarterback, and nobody plays perfect every game.
So your offensive line isn't whole. Your receiving core isn't whole. Your top three guys are down. Your quarterback has got to step up and make other guys around him better, and Jordan Love just didn't do that. Now, I have to give credit where credit is due. That Philadelphia Eagles defense made Jordan Love look average because they were absolutely dominant. I thought Milton Williams played a whale of a game, defensive tackle that's unheralded for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's the running mate for Jalen Carter. He was absolutely phenomenal. Zach Bond was awesome in that game. One of the best value picks for Howie Roseman this year, a one-year contract. The guy's making $5 million. And guess what? You're talking about this dude being an all-pros, having 7 tackles in a pick in yesterday's game. And then, of course, Nolan Smith, the defensive end, first-round draft pick from a couple of years ago. Feels like the light is finally starting to cut on for him. Yep. He had a couple of sacks in yesterday's game. So I think overall that defensive front seven for Philadelphia made life miserable for Jordan Love. I thought they did a great job of containing Josh Jacobs early to allow the game to tilt. And then once Philadelphia got out ahead, there was no catching them because that defense put the clamps on. So just a phenomenal effort by the Philadelphia Eagles overall. They were the better team from a talent standpoint in all 3 phases. And I thought that Nick Sirianni did a great job of not getting in the way of that. They just applied pressure to the Green Bay Packers in all 3 phases, and they just waited for the Packers to crack, and that's exactly what we saw in the second half.
Jordan Love, Packers quarterback, postgame on the idea that, as Smalls mentions, they did not win big games this year.
We lost to some really good teams, and, we just got to we'll look at those games, but we got to find ways to just execute and, win those big-time games like that. And obviously this year we weren't able to do that. So there'll be a lot of stuff we'll look at, try and figure out what exactly, the kind of the root of our problem is and areas we can get better. But, just wasn't good enough against like you said, the really good teams in this league, and be something that, we'll focus on this offseason.
I'm going to leave it right there. But the bottom line is and people, it's almost funny to me because what people will do over the course of, the time that Dak Prescott's been there is they won't look at each situation each year as an individual. they'll look at the totality. They'll say things like, oh, well, you guys had a great offensive line. We did in 2016. In 2016 was literally the pinnacle and the best of that offensive line was. Last year was better than it had been. I'd probably say that was one of the better ones. But in 2017, when we were dealing with Zeke Elliott being suspended and every week he was going to New York, the distraction of that right there and the beginning of Tyron Smith missing time. That's when we had the famous Chaz Green game where the Dallas Cowboys gave up 9 sacks. 9 sacks. And you had Zeke Elliott suspended 6 games, going back and forth to New York, trying to fight the whole situation. Yes, we did. And then in 18, you lose Travis Frederick. A hole which maybe is finally plugged, right? With Cooper Beebe, where we have some hope. But between Joe Looney and Biotish, I saw Biotish still getting picked up and dropped in the backfield yesterday. Yes, Zach Martin had been incredible. But now this past year, he's broken down and old. Tyron Smith averaged the last 4 seasons with the Cowboys 7 games a year. Where people will say, well, you've had great weapons. You had Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb and Des Bryant. We didn't have them all at the same time. We had CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper together, CeeDee Lamb's rookie year. And we decided to say, let's let him go. In which case, we relied on Michael Gallup after an ACL who missed the first 4 games, and Noah Brown basically being our number 2. And a bunch of guys you never heard of. We literally went to training camp and we said, CeeDee Lamb and the guys. Because they were so unknown, it was just a group of guys. And Zeke Elliott, every single year of his career, his numbers per game went down. From the time Zeke Elliott signed his new contract, he was no longer an elite running back. The numbers bear that out. Our running game has not been great like it had been in our glory days. Our offensive line has been bad. Oh, and the defense. 2020, it was the worst defense in the history of Cowboys. The worst. So, yes, you can say, well, they had Des Bryant. Yeah, Des Bryant, the last 2 years of his career, who, mind you, had his highest yardage total per reception with Dak Prescott. But then he had like Cole Beasley and Terrence Williams and things like that, and an old Jason Witten. We still have a void right now at tight end. We thought Jake Ferguson was going to take a step forward this year and he was going to be the guy, but he took a step backwards. And when you look at teams, when you see Dallas Goedert go get a big touchdown yesterday for the Eagles, when you see Kelsey with Kansas City, when you see George Kittle, you don't have these things. You don't have these things. And going to this season, you had one weapon, CeeDee Lamb, and a quarterback who was literally running for his life. It's hilarious to me because when Jalen Hurts threw that first touchdown, everybody, all the trolls, Dak Prescott can't make that throw. He can't make that throw. I was like, dudes, the Dallas Cowboys receiving core was so bad that we were worse in separation in the NFL by a yard. By a yard. And time to throw, we were one of the worst. Dak is literally running around the pocket trying to find somebody open, and there's nobody freaking open. If you watch that play, and please, by all means, go back and watch it and count 1001, 1002, 1003, and look at the amount of time that offensive line, that great offensive line of the Eagles, gave the quarterback. The receivers are able to run around to finally get open, and he's able to just unmolested, not looking to see, is this guy going to take my head off? Maybe I need to duck and step up forward. He is literally standing there and able to look. He could have made a ham sandwich. There was so much time. And when you get that, it's easy. Make no mistake about it. The reason the Eagles won yesterday, it wasn't the coaching. It wasn't the play calling, because you could look at it and say the play calling was bad. They were just a better, healthier team than the Green Bay Packers. It's not rocket science. You want to be better than the other teams physically, emotionally, mentally, and then put good coaching on top of it. That's how you win. You can't sit there and say, well, you know, our big trades are getting Trey Lance. Getting Trey Lance. You understand that? That's the biggest move the Dallas Cowboys have made trade-wise. Oh, I'm sorry. Jonathan Mingo. Because we used 4th-round picks for both those guys. The biggest moves the Cowboys have made over the last 5 years, or 6 years, Amari Cooper, trading him, Trey Lance, Jordan Phillips, and Mingo. And I don't know how people think, we're a great team. We're so talented. And one other thing about that, because Weedham boys, because we're always in prime time till late this year, we are always on TV and we're always seen. And we have more fans that are out there that are just voting for these things. It's a popularity contest. And there are other great players that are out there that aren't getting the airtime that the Dallas Cowboys. So it's skewed when you see Pro Bowl players, because they're always in your mind. It's a rough day today here at the Red Brick House. And maybe it continued to early this morning, because wife said, there's no water. The hot water is coming out real slow, and it ain't hot. Like, uh-oh. Had a pipe bust up underneath the house. So that's how the day's starting out here. And, of course, I will be descended upon like a leg of locusts by Commanders and Eagles fans. Thank you very much, Jerry. Mr. Squirrel Brain, peace out.